Welcome into the Stardom Fantasy Football Podcast. I'm your host, Steph McKinney, joined as always by Jacob Stevens and Ashton Mitchell. Guys, this is late Thursday night. We're in the middle of the Thursday night football game, as we tend to be on these shows that we're releasing on Friday. Pretty exciting game so far. But the one thing I did want to bring up before we jump into the show here, we were talking about the primetime shows last week. We talked about the Saints and Tampa Bay being, the real showdown per se. It's supposed to be a really good game. And then we had
Do we have to talk about that?
Then we had the disappointing New York Jets taking on the New England Patriots, which we just thought
was a much better game.
Abysmal. But that was actually a good game. Whereas the Saints and Tampa Bay was not a good game. It was a blowout pretty early on. But I did want to bring that up because it's just funny how football seems to work out these days. 2020 is the year that the Jets and Patriots can be a better game than the Saints and Buccaneers.
Correct. It's all correct.
Those surprises will get you. But how are you guys feeling going into week 10 here?
I'm surviving.
Yeah. There's one league that I'm in pretty bad shape in, and it just so happens to be our main league. I know I've complained about how many points I've scored, but really I'm just trying to motivate my guys. Honestly, trying to move some things around. Got some deals I'm trying to get done. Something's got to change. It's really, the morale is low. I'm trying to get this culture right here on this fantasy squad so I can bring home that trophy. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
Ashton, I did want to fill you in on two things here. One is that
here we go.
Well, it's really my disappointment in Jacob all around. So
I knew it was coming. I know the two things.
Get my background a little bit here. First was he broke the cardinal rule of fantasy football trading, which was he agreed to a trade over text.
I was spitballing.
Let the man talk.
First off, he proposed the trade, right?
You said you wanted Herbert, and you were like, well, what do you want? I'm like, what do you mean? And then I just started throwing stuff out there, and he was like, deal. And I was like, whoa.
Yeah, you don't throw
I said,
it out
whoa.
there.
My answer was whoa, and apparently that means yes.
I don't know what the deal was because you won't let him finish.
Thank you. So Jacob
on to the match.
Said he wanted another star on his team. He already has Alvin Kamara, but he wanted someone else to rely on.
He said he wanted another running back or a star.
He just
a
said
star. Didn't matter what position.
It doesn't matter.
Okay.
Whatever.
Okay.
Kicker, defense, whatever.
Yeah. Who cares? So he proposed Herbert.
This is through text, okay? There was no trade sent, like officially. We're
Justin Jefferson.
Going back, throwing it back and forth.
Justin Herbert and Justin Jefferson for Will Fuller. Is what
just Will Fuller.
I couldn't commit to it.
Herbert and Jefferson for just Will Fuller.
I mean, just Will Fuller. He's been like the best receiver. He's been super consistent. One game.
Justin Herbert, though. I mean, who? Okay,
he's a quarterback.
Go ahead.
But listen. So Stefan is desperate. He's in desperate need of a QB, and he's been wanting Herbert. So I thought he'd pay up a little bit more, but he was being a cheap little, you know what?
You proposed it.
Yeah,
we
were spitballing.
You're just giving him a handout right there. I mean, I don't understand what
I didn't give it to him, obviously. I felt too bad about it. You expect Stephen
to come back and be like, I feel like I owe you a little bit more for this amazing.
Well, I thought he's a good friend and would be like, this is a fair trade. But
his first offer was Herbert, Edmonds, and Drake for Michael Thomas.
Okay.
And I quickly rejected his offer. And then
he's like, what else do you want? Like, make the
deal
for me.
Realistic offer. And then so then he said he offered it. I said deal. And
I said, whoa. Literally, that's it.
So I figured since he proposed it and I said yes, I thought it was a done
Listen,
deal.
I did not propose it. It was just a text message. You proposed it to me literally in ESPN. And I said I couldn't do it.
I actually agree with Jacob in this scenario.
You don't
He-
propose a
he
trade
proposed-
you're not willing to take.
He proposed the deal to discuss. He gauged your reaction, and then he didn't follow through and close.
Thank you.
That's idiotic. Why would
That
you
makes me a
propose
good
something?
It's actually a great sales technique, just to feel
Just a feeler.
and understand the desperation of the potential client.
The
When's the
second-
trade deadline? Is it this week?
I'm not sure when it is in that
It
league.
just depends on your league. Yeah.
The
Well,
second thing I
Stefan's the
wanted to bring up
commissioner. I
to you,
figured he'd know that, but
the second thing I wanted to bring up to you, Ashton, that you're
Uh-huh.
going to be very happy about is
Sure.
we're keeping our undefeated streak alive against Jacob. He's yet to beat either of us. Defeated him in Dynasty last week. I think that brings our cumulative record to either 5-0 or 6-0 against Jacob this year, which is
It just feels
Something-
right.
we can hang our hat on,
Yeah. Yeah.
really take that momentum moving forward.
That's actually why we're not wearing hats, because
Right.
they're hung.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hung until you beat us, Jacob.
Yeah.
it's okay. I don't have to beat you guys to win the championship because you guys won't be there.
Whoa, man.
Pretty
Come
sure
on,
you
man.
do.
Those are the two things I wanted to bring up. Did you guys want to bring up anything before we get into the matchups here?
Not a thing.
How'd you guys do this week? I won 3 out of 4.
I won 4-4, including
go.
against Jacob.
There you go. There you go. Jacob, you want to talk about your
Well, we clearly know Jacob at least has one loss.
I was 2-3
All
for
right.
consecutive weeks. It's hard. It hurts.
Doesn't seem like championship winning caliber right there.
Stefan watched the game that ultimately brought me my loss, but he told me how much of a close game it was.
Oh yeah, he
was.
rubbed it in your face.
It was
I remember
literally last. Like James
Last
White was
drive?
not playing at all, like not getting snaps. And then they were like, you know what? We're going to go for a winning drive here. James White, get on in there, buddy. And that was it for you. All right, let's jump into the matchups here. We didn't do a show this week earlier in the week, so we're going to do all of the matchups here tonight.
Boom.
So we'll try to be quick and snappy for you, so we can get these things out of the way. Let's start it off. We're not going to do the Thursday night game, obviously, since this will come out on Friday. So we'll start.
Who's on
off
bye this week?
Oh, you caught me off guard. I got to take a look. We know Dallas.
Okay, I know it's Dallas. I think Atlanta, the Jets. Everybody's got all their starters from there,
And the Chiefs.
and the Chiefs. Okay,
There you go. Good
thank
question.
you. Thank you.
All right, let's start with Houston taking on Cleveland.
Believe
This
it.
is right, Cleveland of Cleveland.
Mm-hmm.
On the Houston side of the ball, obviously we have the two D Johnsons going, but David Johnson is expected to miss this game. He left the game early last week and is expected not to make it to this game either. So it should be Duke Johnson this week. Make sure you get your D Johnsons correct in your lineup. But what is y'all's take on Duke Johnson taking over this role? He should see the majority of the snaps. Where do you guys see him where do you gauge him as a potential fantasy option this week against Cleveland?
Come back in RB2. He's gonna get. I mean, the way they've been using Johnson or David Johnson. Sorry, wrong D. I think he'll have enough. Definitely enough usage, and he is he can be the part of the passing game for the running back room. I don't even know who else is there. I mean, do you guys know any other running back there?
Buddy
TJ
Howell.
Procise.
Yeah, Buddy Howell and Pro Size.
Exactly. I rest my case. Yeah, I think he's definitely startable. Cleveland's not.
Scotty Phillips.
They're kind of on the higher end. Like they're around 11, 12 points per game. So shouldn't be too bad. I think he'll get enough usage to be a play. If you have David Johnson and you got him on the backup, throw him on in there.
Yeah, I think he is a strong flex option. I mean, he didn't have a bad game against Jacksonville. He put up almost 13 and a half points, 16 carries for 41 yards and a touchdown. Yeah, he's a reliable flex, I think, against this matchup.
Yeah, I'm starting him in one league. I actually benched Jonathan Taylor tonight to play Duke Johnson just for potential upside and just to see where Jonathan Taylor still sits after last week after the fumble.
How are you feeling about that right now?
Working out for me.
There's still a lot of game to go.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know what he has. I was just
I think
asking.
I think he has about 4.5 points right now. But yeah, I think Duke Johnson is around back in running back too. I agree, just like you guys said. But what about these other options for Houston? Are we still bought in on Fuller and Cooks being guys that we're starting?
Oh yeah,
I would start both.
Great
start both
matchup
in this
too.
matchup. Yeah.
Wide receiver 1 and 2, just both of them stacked.
Let's jump over to the Cleveland side then. Nick Chubb has been at practice every day this week and was practicing without any sort of
Brace.
Yeah, brace or any sort of supplement to help him out there. So what's your expectation with this backfield now? If we expect Nick Chubb to make it back this week, Kareem Hunt obviously looked great with Nick Chubb earlier in the season. Do we just expect that kind of breakdown just to fall right back into place with Nick Chubb healthy, or are we expecting him to kind of be worked back into the backfield?
I think he'll get a good amount of touches, but I'd start both of them anyway. I mean, you got the Houston run defense 30th in the league. They love giving away points.
I mean, even when Chubb was playing, Kareem Hunt was still a factor in the gameplay, no matter what the matchup was. And I don't think that's going to change once Chubb comes back. I think Chubb will still get a healthy workload. If he's clear to go, he's been out so long, they're gonna involve him. They're not gonna just throw him in too early here. So I think they're both startable. I probably have Chubb a little bit ahead of Kareem Hunt in this matchup, but that could easily be switched. I'm a huge Hunt fan this year. It just depends on how the game scheme kind of unfolds. There's a possibility that Chubb comes in and is just limited, but I kind of see it leaning the other way.
Yeah, I mean, Hunt's actually been more disappointing with Chubb out than he was with Chubb in. So
Yeah.
I think, honestly, it's probably a benefit to Kareem Hunt to have Nick Chubb back just to kind of switch up the pace there and have multiple options in the backfield. I think benefits both of them, to be honest. So I think if you have either one of them, you should throw them into your lineup. No doubts with that matchup.
For sure.
On the Hunt side of that, real quick, do you think because week before the bye, he was putting up double-digit points in each game, aside from the matchup against Pittsburgh, which was a tough matchup anyways. And then right before the bye against Vegas, he put up 8.3. But when did OBJ go out? Wasn't it week 8?
It was Pittsburgh.
Was it Pittsburgh?
Mm-hmm.
So do you think since OBJ went out and Baker had more of an opportunity to just kind of throw it to whoever, do you think that opened up the passing game more for the Browns?
I think it did for Austin Hooper. I think he got a little bit. He's been getting a little bit more involved. Once it was OBJ was still there, but then once afterwards, he kind of started looking like he did last year with the Falcons. I don't know. I mean, OBJ is going to draw a lot of attention as it is, but if you're still trying to force him the ball when he's got all the attention, I don't think that makes any sense. But he just doesn't seem to. I mean, he just spreads it around better, like you said, without OBJ there. And he's had a couple good games, I think he had a weird weather game as well when they played Las Vegas. But
do you think his freedom as a passer has an effect now on Kareem Hunt moving forward for the rest of the season?
No,
especially now that Chubb is back. Yeah,
I'd say no, because they're run first. He's going to be. I think Hunt's going to be a little bit more touchdown dependent. But we saw him; he was tearing it up with Chubb there, and they were both kind of getting their own.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, you would think it would benefit Kareem Hunt with Odell out, just because Baker has to lean more on Hunt as a receiving option. But you have to really see that unfold. Like, it doesn't really seem like he's getting more targets, more receptions, just because OBJ is out. So we'll have to see now that they have Chubb back. That should be kind of what their offense looks like rest of season.
Yeah, that'll be
Sorry.
something interesting to keep an eye on in the next few weeks.
But what about some of these receiving options here? Do we want to start any of the wide receivers? Do we want to start Austin Hooper? Is Baker Mayfield in play as a potential streamer this week?
Yeah, I think Baker could have a good week this week. Hooper could be a good streaming option at tight end. I don't think he was doing that great before, because when he out with his appendectomy, what is it? What did he have?
He missed 2 games
Appendectomy?
for
Yeah.
appendectomy. Yeah.
So this is his first game back, right?
Yep.
I believe so, yeah.
So I mean, hopefully, if he's healthy enough and no setbacks, that he might have a potentially decent game. So
Yeah, I
we
think
haven't-
both receiving options are in play for me,
Yeah.
and Baker is definitely a stream candidate against this abysmal Houston defense.
Gotcha. What about Jarvis Landry? He's been kind of disappointing all season. Is he someone that you're considering starting? I mean, this is a great matchup for wide
Yep.
receivers.
I'd start him. I think it'd be a good time.
yeah, I mean,
See him
it's a good
being a wide
matchup.
receiver too.
You would hope that he has a better game than he's had in the past.
Yeah, I'm still hesitant about Jarvis. I'd like to start someone else instead of him. I just haven't really seen any production out of him this year. He doesn't look like Baker wants to throw it to Jarvis for some reason. So
It's because he's got that broken rib.
I'd rather find.
Don't
different
forget about that
options.
broken rib, man.
All right, let's move on to the next matchup. We have the Washington football team taking on the Detroit Lions. We'll start on the Washington side of the ball. There was a gruesome Kyle Allen injury last week. Alex Smith filled in nicely until the end of the fourth quarter, back
Pick or
half of the
two.
fourth quarter.
Or 3.
Mm-hmm.
Threw a couple picks and got him out of the ball game. But before that, I think he had like 300 plus yards passing, and
Yeah.
he was looking good. He was slinging the ball around. Terry made a play and had that long touchdown. But where do we stand with the Washington football team in terms of their fantasy options with Alex Smith under center rather than Kyle Allen? Like, how do we kind of gauge Terry McLaurin, Logan Thomas, some of these running backs? Where do you guys stand?
I actually think it's an improvement for Terry McLaurin and for Antonio Gibson, and potentially McKissick as well. Alex Smith is gonna dump off the pass real quick to the running back, whether it's Gibson or McKissick in. And I just feel like there's going to be a little bit more opportunity for McLaurin here with, the more experienced Alex Smith. I'm just nervous. Nervous
I
about
know,
Alex
think
Smith.
about that leg.
Can you imagine being Alex Smith and just watching Kyle Allen go down with a, pretty bad leg injury? It's just scary. But, hopefully he can get out there and do the job and stay healthy and get some production in. So, I'm kind of excited to see Cam Sims in there too. He's kind of been a little bit of more of a target, especially, this past game, but hopefully he gets some more opportunity moving forward as well with Alex under center.
So let me ask you a question. Ashton, you seem to be our resident Washington football team expert here, but I'm just confused about kind of the opportunity that Antonio Gibson's seeing. Back in week 7 before the bye against Dallas, he had his career high in terms of carries with 20. Then they have the bye and they come out with another good matchup against the Giants, and he has his career low carries with 6. Like, I just don't understand how Ron Rivera is using Antonio Gibson. That still led the team with 6 carries, but without the touchdown, this game looks drastically different. 6 carries for 20 yards, 3 receptions for 35 yards. Like, that's 9 touches for a starting fantasy running back isn't what you want to see. What do you kind of expect moving forward? Because this is, again, another good matchup. This is the worst defense against running backs in terms of fantasy. So this should be, on paper, a fantastic start. But if the guy that you're starting is only getting 6 carries, like, where do you kind of see that moving forward? Do you think it goes back up more towards 12, 13 carries? Or do you think, this is realistic here?
Well, I think week 9 against the Giants, the Washington
Game
football
script
team
wasn't great.
was getting demolished the first half. So they were playing behind the whole game until towards the very end. So they weren't running the ball as much.
And they had McKissick in for the passing,
And they
which
had
I don't know
McKissick
why they
in for the
don't
passing.
use Gibson for the passing.
That's-
that makes no
that's-
sense to me.
That's what's concerning to me, and I don't really know it either. And I just don't know if it's just preservation. They just want to,
I mean, because McKissick only had 3 carries as well, so it's not like he'd lost out the carries to McKissick. It was just Ron Rivera just said, you know what, we can't run it at all. Let's just pass it. And then McKissick had like 9 catches on 14 targets or something crazy.
right. And it's just I look at it this way: they were playing behind against the Giants. They weren't going to be passing as much to Gibson, and they weren't running the ball. They were airing it out, trying to catch up. I think they're gonna have a closer game against Detroit in this, but we'll see. I mean, hopefully they can get ahead of it and kind of control the clock a little bit more, run the ball a little bit more, change up the game plan here, and they're not having to play from behind, starting first quarter. So I think Gibson could have a bigger game for sure than he did in week 9. And hopefully see, at least 10 to 12 carries as opposed to 6. So that's I think the minimum there that I would like to see him at, 10 to 12. But I mean, I don't think they're playing for. I think the NFC East is open, but
Yeah.
I think they're also being cautious about, how they're maintaining their players since. Injuries have plagued them in the past, and I don't know. I think they're kind of being a little conservative with their play calling, which is frustrating as a fan. But this should be a better matchup, I think, in a more controlled environment. I think they should be able to handle it. But I don't know. Gibson's one of those players where he has the potential. He can put up the numbers. I mean, he put up 18 points against Dallas. He put up 20 points against Baltimore. And before that, he put up 2 weeks of 11 points against Arizona and Cleveland. So he has the ability. It's just he needs the opportunity from Ron and the game script. So I'm hoping
It sounds
that
it sounds
unfolds here
like
in Detroit.
sounds like the game script is kind of
The factor.
controlling his usage,
Right.
and JD McKissick is ruining his life. But even here on the Detroit side, I still don't know what's happening with this backfield.
I look at it this way. They're not going to want Alex Smith to be in pocket and take a risk of getting a lot of pressure. They're going to want to get it out of Alex Smith's hands as soon as possible. So I can see whether it's Gibson or McKissick. I can see Gibson taking more passes this week if he gets the gameplay. So whether it's Gibson or McKissick, I think they're going to dump it off to the running back a lot more this week than they have in the past few weeks. And they're going to have to get the ball out quick, which means I think you're going to see a lot of plays to Sims and McLaurin, and possibly Logan Thomas can get involved a little bit more this week as well. So I look to see the ball is going to be passed a lot more than recent weeks. And Alex Smith came in, and he wasn't looking horrible at all. I mean, he looked good, and just until the end made some really bad decisions, but he'll adjust.
And that's all the time we have for the show.
Yep.
Let's move over to the Detroit side of the
That
ball.
is a Washington football fan, folks. He's pouring his heart out right now.
You asked, I answer. I'll go until you cut me off.
Let's move over to the Detroit side of the ball. Like Jacob said,
Well, we do need. I mean, Logan Thomas. Would you guys start him here? I'm just curious.
sure. I mean, he's a tight end. You gotta find a starter.
Whoa, dude.
I mean, look, it's like he's not someone you get excited about, but if you need a tight end to play, sure. Like,
Okay.
There's
Just,
al-
hey,
there's
man,
only-
I just wanted to,
I think
cover
he's-
all my bases.
I think he's touchdown dependent.
right,
That's-
which is what the majority of them are at this point. So if you think he's the guy who's gonna find the end zone, sure.
Thank you.
Let's move over to the Detroit side of the ball. Like Jacob said, this backfield is confusing as well. 1 week it's Adrian Peterson, the next it's DeAndre Swift. Swift had a pretty nice game last week, whereas Stafford was rather disappointing. I mean, We have
I'm
Kenny
over him.
Galladay out for possibly the second week in a row here. We're expecting him to miss this game. Marvin Jones got saved by a touchdown once again, but was disappointing otherwise. See, I feel like at this point on the Detroit side of the ball, the only real reliable option has been TJ Hawkinson. You're still playing Swift for the upside that he can give you a startable game as a flex option. But other than that, like I don't feel like you feel great about starting anybody else in Detroit.
Yeah, Adrian Peterson, his touches have kind of been slowly going down. You see in DeAndre Swift's come up a little bit higher. I think he's only had 2 probably bust weeks of the entire year where he's putting up some decent points. So yeah, I'd say you still start him. This is a tougher matchup, but his receiving ability should bail him out a little bit. I don't know how I feel about Marvin Jones. I don't think I want to play him this week. I think TJ Hawkinson, like you said, is definitely. I'd say Swift and Hawkinson probably the only plays you got here this week that you feel comfortable about.
Right. Yeah, I 100% agree, and I don't think you play Stafford. Just
I don't like
seen.
him anymore. We used to be friends, but not anymore.
I'm still holding out hope that once Kenny Galladay's healthy and he gets all 3 options really
Stays
out
healthy.
there. Yeah, I hope he can turn it around and give you some good fantasy weeks to stream him, but just don't have any confidence right now. Let's move over to the next matchup, though. We have Tampa Bay taking on Carolina. This is a Carolina team that put up a good fight against Kansas City last week, put it all the way down to the wire with Patrick Mahomes, and Tampa Bay coming off a beatdown from New Orleans at home. So we'll start at the Tampa Bay side and kind of try to realistically gauge where we are with Tampa Bay coming off a big loss. This Carolina defense has, been kind of middle of the pack, kind of towards the lower end. But this team is competing. So
they're scrappy.
Where do we see some of these options for Tampa Bay? Let's start in the backfield with Leonard Fournette and Ronald Jones.
Yeah, last time the Buccaneers have played the Panthers, and the Buccaneers kind of put on a little show. Leonard Fournette had 12 catches. 12 receptions, 12 rushes. Goodness. For 103 yards and 2 touchdowns. So Leonard Fournette did that. That was that big blow-up game, and Ronald Jones had 7 carries for 23 yards, but he still had a touchdown. So the touchdowns really went to the running backs that game. Mike Evans caught the only touchdown but he also had 7 catches and 104 yards, but everybody was injured. Gronk wasn't ready to play yet. But for this game, I think the running options are a little sketchy right now. Just seems like every team last week. Rojo, was that when he fumbled last week? He dropped a ball or something last week, and then Fournette just took over for the most part.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, that's what happened.
Yeah.
They didn't score very many points. They only had 6 carries or something, and its entire. Or was that the week before?
It was the week before.
The look on your forehead.
Last week was the NFL record for the least carries.
6 total carries or 4. Yeah.
No,
ridiculous.
it was 1 from Leonard Fournette and 3 from Ronald Jones. Had 4 total carries from their running
Who would
backs.
you guys start? Or would you start them both?
I'd rather not start either.
Yeah, I'd rather not.
Oh, you have to pick though.
But it's scary. Like I don't want to play either of them.
You don't have a choice to pick.
I think I like Ronald Jones more in this matchup, but it seems to be shifting that Fournette is starting to merge over from the split to be the more consistent back. So if Jones has a hard time holding onto the ball, which he's had in the past, then Bruce Arians is one of those guys that if you screw up, you're out. You're not playing that game, and he's already demonstrated that. And
it's not nice. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's kind of cutthroat, but it's their approach. So
I just hope that Bruce Arians can remember the 3-game stretch that we got with Ronald Jones with Leonard Fournette was out, where he had the 3 games in a row, 100+ yards. Like,
how do you forget that?
That can get it done, Like, stop taking him out of the game when he drops a pass or he makes a mistake. Like, you have a solid running back.
Make up for it.
Give him the opportunity to make plays. But I'd really rather not play either one of them. I'm sure one of them can have a good game, but it's just I don't want to take the bet on who it's going to be. I think that's just a risky place to put yourself. But kind of this whole offense is right. Like there's 3 wide receivers on this team now that can potentially have good games. But do you want to try to pick the one that it's going to be?
I mean, I think you got to start Chris Godwin.
Yeah.
That's kind of the all-star there. And then now with AB, I mean, Evans and AB had a better game, but Godwin's finger was just hanging on for dear life, you know. But Brady was trying to get it to AB. I mean, I don't think all 3 of them are going to be relevant. I think like I'd probably order it Godwin, AB, Evans actually is probably how I would order it.
Yeah, so we saw the target breakdown for the first time last week when Antonio Brown had his first game. Obviously, it seems to be an anomaly for Tampa Bay because this was their worst game of the season so far. They only scored 3 points. But the breakdown,
Tom Brady's worst loss ever.
yeah, it wasn't great. But the breakdown was 6 targets to both Mike Evans and Chris Godwin and 5 targets to Antonio Brown. Antonio Brown seemed to be legitimately the 3rd wide receiver. Like Mike Evans and Chris Godwin were on the field more. I don't know if they're just easing him into it or that's how it's going to look
Right.
rest of season. But it wasn't. It's hard to say this wasn't the Antonio Brown that you expected because the whole team was disappointing. So I think you
Right.
kind of just have to write that off. And this has got to be the week that you kind of gauge how these wide receivers look. But I agree that I think Chris Godwin is the one I'm most confident in right now.
Mm-hmm.
You're not. How about Gronk?
No.
He's a must start, right?
I told you to sit him last week.
Yeah, must start.
It's a good matchup. I'd take him here.
I wouldn't. Again,
All
I
right.
think it's these wide receivers. It's too confusing right now.
He also didn't for those 3 weeks. He got a touchdown in each week. So
I don't think I told you not to start him those 3 weeks. I told you not to start him last week.
you said Gronk is the worst. Don't
You
ever
I've been
tell
telling
me
you that.
every
I've been telling you that
day.
from the start.
He doesn't
even
deserve to
think
be in
about
the
it.
NFL.
I mean, he had 1 catch for 2 yards last week. So
Well, yeah, that was
Nice
a
catch
horrible,
though. It
horrible
was
game.
really nice.
If y'all think Tampa's going to go back after that loss and not blow everything up offensively,
yeah, I
Y'all
think
are
they're
mistaken.
definitely going to look better than they did last week. But
I mean, I don't think they
out
could
of
get
all
worse
these,
than that.
out of all these options on the offense, Gronk is my least favorite, just because Godwin, Evans, and maybe Antonio Brown, depending on how he looks this game, should be more favorable options for Tom Brady to throw it to. Let's move to the Carolina side of the ball, though. We have Teddy Bridgewater coming off a great game against a tough defense in Kansas City. Is he someone that this is another terrible matchup, but is Teddy Bridgewater in streaming consideration now?
no,
Not for
this
me.
week.
I don't want any part of that.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of take a look at what he's done this year. We already said that they played Tampa Bay, and he didn't look great, but Tom Brady didn't look good against Carolina either. So it's tough if you're really considering streaming players because he's getting the yardage. It's just what they're doing in terms of scoring. He hasn't had more than 2 touchdowns throwing the ball all year. But CMC is going to miss this game, so it's going to be back to Mike Davis.
Yes,
Do we,
sir.
do we expect them to rely more on Teddy Bridgewater to air it out?
It's just a tough matchup all the way around. And I don't want to take the chance against an angry Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I think you can still start Robbie Anderson and Mike Davis. The real question is Curtis Samuel.
I think Curtis Samuel will be more involved this week, especially if CMC's not playing, which that's the case. Since CMC's been out, Curtis Samuel's been utilized. So I think they'll continue with that approach. But I mean, as far as Teddy Bridgewater goes in this situation, I mean, I would have him possibly even outside top 20. I think if you're in a 12-man league, there's plenty of other options that I would put in front of him. So that affects the rest of the
need those
offense as well.
touchdowns.
That affects the offense. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah, it was actually pretty crazy that Curtis Samuel had his best game of the year with CMC back last week. I mean, he he was utilized everywhere. He caught every single one of his targets, 9 catches for 105 yards and a touchdown, and then he still had 3 carries for 13 yards. So it just seems like they want to involve him in the offense now. And like you said last week, Ashton, I think you just got to continue to feed the hot hand. Like if you have Curtis Samuel, keep playing him until he lets you down.
Yeah, I contribute that to how he's been playing over the past couple weeks. I think he's kind of earned that opportunity. So
Fair.
yeah, keep it rolling.
Fair enough. All right, let's move over to the next game. We have the Philadelphia Eagles taking on the New York Giants. We'll start with Philadelphia. This should be a matchup that people can rack up some fantasy points with, you'd think. I mean, these defenses aren't great. There should be points scored, expected to be points scored. Miles Sanders should make his return this week. What do y'all make of the Philadelphia options for fantasy this week?
I like that Miles Sanders is coming back. That's pretty exciting. I think this could be a good matchup for him. The receiving core is getting a little sketchy. What do you think about that, Ashton, Mr. Fulgham?
I'm still holding on to Fulgham, and I think Goddard could have a good game this week as well against the Giants.
Are you playing Fulgham this week?
I think I would. Even with Alshon coming back and Jalen Reagor, I think I would still play Fulgham.
Yeah, this is what we've been talking about. We've been talking about Fulgham's been great, but the inevitable was that Alshon Jeffrey is going to come back, Jalen Reagor is going to come back, and then what happens? Like how does this wide receiver core break down? Who goes where? Who's on the field the most? Like we just don't have any of those answers right now. So it's tough to really gauge what to expect. And this is a good matchup for these Philly wide receivers. So it's going to be a risk to start really any of the three. But obviously someone's going to produce here.
I just think if they do too much of a drastic shift and it's, say they have, Reagor, Jeffrey, and Fulgham out and they just kind of push off Fulgham from their game plan, I think that's going to change everything. I mean, they're in a rhythm now. They've actually been doing pretty well. Fulgham's been consistent. Why would you break up the consistency if it's working? It's just, if it ain't broke, don't fix it kind of mentality. I think you involve Reagor and Jeffrey as appropriate, but I think Fulgham's earned his spot as that potential wide receiver 1 in this offense right now. And I can see if they're smart about it, kind of staying that way and letting Reagor and Jeffrey try to earn that back when they get involved again. But as of now, I mean, that's where their consistency's been on this offense. That's been struggling, with healthy players. But I'd go with the consistency here.
So would you list it Fulgham, Reagor, Jeffrey, or Reagor, Fulgham, Jeffrey?
Fulgham, Reagor, Jeffrey, and I might even put Goddard in front of.
Yeah, I'm just talking about receivers. Yeah, I think you're right. I think Jeffrey's not going to get. I think he's going to get eased in, as injured as he's been, and out for a billion years. It seems like that you did see Reagor get involved immediately last week. Yeah. So I expect that to continue in a good matchup like this. I think Reagor and Fulgham would be my guys, and Goddard. I'll start half the damn team. I think Jeffrey's just not for me.
I agree. Yeah. I haven't been high on Jeffrey for a while.
I think this is going to be the Reagor breakout week, like we saw with Jerry Jeudy last week. These rookies, they seem to get going in the second half of the season, and obviously Jalen Reagor's missed a lot of the season with injury. But every game we've seen him, it seems like they want to get him involved in the offense. They put a lot of draft capital into him. So I expect Jalen Reagor to get a lot of targets this week. This should be a matchup that he can exploit. So I think he's a viable flex option this week for you. Let's move over to the Giants side of the ball. We hit on Dallas Goedert and Miles Sanders a little bit. I think Carson Wentz is a startable, streamable option at quarterback this week.
Absolutely.
Just don't watch the game.
Yeah. True.
All right, let's move over to the Giants side of the ball. The Giants are a little harder to gauge just because they're harder to watch on offense. But I guess we'll start at the running back position. Devonta Freeman should be a play this week. He should be playing in terms of not being
He had a
injured.
setback today, apparently. They cut his practice short. His ankle, same ankle. He had a setback. Stop. They said, get out of here. Stop practicing. There's still hope that he'll play on Sunday, but I got a feeling Wayne Gallman's gonna be probably taking the load there.
They said it was a minor aggravation.
Either way. What'd you say, Ashton?
I said they said it's a minor aggravation, so they're just gonna, treat it, and it'll probably come down to yeah.
I mean, it's 3 days away, so
Yep.
But for the receivers, I mean, well, like anyways, back to running backs, I should say. I mean, Philly's got a top 10 run defense. I'm not too excited about it anyway. You got to hope someone falls into the end zone pretty much either way. But for the receivers, Slayton has just kind of been on the downslope since Shepard got back. Do you guys have any interest in Shepard or Ingram this week? I think Ingram's a pretty good play.
Yeah, I think
Shepard and Ingram. Yep. Yeah, not Darius.
Sterling Shepard and Evan Ingram are the two guys. I agree, but you always got the big play ability from Darius Slayton. So if you're willing to take the boom or bust game, Slayton could be in play. All right, let's move over to the next one. Jacksonville taking on Green Bay. Which side of the ball you guys want to start on?
Jacksonville.
Okay. So on the Jacksonville side, we saw Jake Luton, who nobody knew what to expect from. Jake Luton.
I did.
Gluten-free.
I picked him up in my dynasty before the game. I thought he looked good. I might be a Jake Luton fan.
He came out and slinged it like one of the first couple plays, and DJ Chark had the long touchdown reception.
Touchdown.
Yeah, so I mean, he impressed. We don't know what to expect when Gardner returns, but for now, we're still going to get some Jake Luton. So in this matchup, what are our expectations for this Jacksonville offense as a whole? For me, I think I'm only really excited about James Robinson. Everybody else could be either great or terrible. And we've talked about the secondary before. They're good at shutting down these receivers. DJ Chark has been up and down all year. I know he had a nice game for you last week, but are you still confident to start DJ Chark with Jake Luton in his second ever game and a tough defense secondary right here?
Yeah, I would still consider Chark in this matchup. Isn't Green Bay dealing with some injuries in their secondary? Didn't one of their cornerbacks get hurt?
Alexander. Yeah, he's potential. He's probably who would be on Chark, and he's
with a concussion,
minor injury. So he's kind of questionable right now. So I think the main thing would be to follow that, and that could literally be the deciding factor if you're going to start Chark or not. But I mean, how many targets did he have last week?
12.
That's a lot. So he's obviously
and he got a touchdown like right off the bat. Yeah. I mean, either way, it could be a garbage time, boost if you play him because they're going to be playing from behind. I mean, Aaron Rodgers has been on a tear. Devontae Adams has been on a tear. Aaron Jones is suspected to be back this week, correct?
Mm-hmm. He played last week.
I mean, but he was limited. So I think it's going to be Jacksonville's game to come back from.
I think Chark's the only receiving option from Jacksonville.
Keenan, I think Cole could be involved as well. So we'll see.
I wouldn't like him in this game.
I'm not starting him, but
just based on the targets that
he's a sleeper.
Luton Free passed out last week.
All right, on the Green Bay side of the ball, I guess the question is who are you not starting? This is a great matchup kind of all around.
If I say MVS, he's going to go off for another 25, 30 points.
Well, Alan Lazard could make his return this week. He could be activated off the IR to play.
I still wouldn't be too excited to start him yet. I don't think I would start him yet. No, I think outside of Adams, you can maybe start Tunyon the Onion as another receiving option, but I don't really want any part of Lazard and MVS. I'm too scared.
Aaron Rodgers loves Alan Lazard, dude.
I know, but he's been out for like 6 weeks.
Well, a long time. I mean, if he's back, he's back.
Yeah, no, I think if Lazard's healthy, I'd play him here in this matchup. I think
Oh yeah,
Aaron
how
Rodgers has
confident
been-
are you?
Oh,
I'm pretty confident.
How good do you think he could be? How many points do you think he's going to score?
Half point. ESPN scoring. We have to clarify that now that
Yeah, since you tried to
you don't
trip
want to
me.
fully pay up on your bets here. But
Hey man,
I'd say he scores. What's his projected score? His projected score is 8.2 in half point ESPN leagues. I project he scored more than 8.2.
can we make the line 10?
No, we'll make the line what ESPN is
9.
projecting him. 8.2.
All right, forget it.
Okay. All right. But let's talk about some of the other options. Aaron Jones was a little disappointing for what you expected him to be last week. Besides the one blow up game back in week 2, he had the 40 plus points. I don't remember how many points he had. You haven't really had that huge game out of him. So do we expect Aaron Jones just to be healthy at this point and be able to go right back into that top 5 kind of running back discussion?
better
He
be.
wasn't needed last week, really. I mean, it was a blowout the entire game. I think it was 34-3 for going into the fourth quarter. I think we saw most of his usage. He had 15 carries still against it. It was the San Francisco 49ers. It was tough run defense. So I expect him to get right back up on the horse and ride on to fantasy glory.
Enough. All right, let's move over to the next game. We have the Buffalo Bills taking on the Arizona Cardinals. I think if my memory serves me correctly, when I looked earlier, I didn't put the lines in on this, but I think this is the highest over/under of the week.
I believe that.
They're projecting something crazy for this game. So there should be fantasy points to everybody. Whoever wants them, you can have them. But let's start on Buffalo side. Josh Allen returned to fantasy glory last week. Looked great once again. Are we expecting that to continue, or do we expect the mediocre fantasy Josh Allen to return in this Arizona matchup?
I think he'll continue the streak here. I think he had a bad stretch. I think he had a clear, clean, elements-free game, and that set him back on track. And I think he'll have the same thing going into Arizona. So I think he'll stay consistent here.
Fair enough. Do you like either of these running backs as potential flex options? Or are we still out on the Buffalo running backs?
Singletary is never going to be on my radar this year. Moss.
Yeah, it's basically matchup based with Moss and hoping that he can get in the end zone and Josh Allen doesn't vulture the rushing TDs.
I could see Moss getting a workload here that's worth a flex. But yeah, I mean, if it's this kind of matchup, I expect Josh Allen to do a lot of legwork here.
And then finally, how do we break down these wide receivers here? The only thing is with Stephon Diggs, he's going to get the toughest matchup with Patrick Peterson. I mean, he's been great though. Otherwise, he just gets the yardage. Are we still fully confident in Stephon Diggs this week with a tough matchup here?
Yep,
it's a tough matchup, but you're starting Diggs.
And what about John Brown and Cole Beasley?
I think Beasley could have a good game this week.
I think Beasley's kicked to the curb.
You think?
Yeah, I think John Brown is John Brown number 2 at this point.
Yeah,
I don't know. I could see this being a shocker here.
It just seems like when John Brown's healthy and on the field, Josh Allen loves John Brown. I think he had I want to say double-digit targets last week when he was finally healthy again. Yeah, he had 11 targets, 8 for 99, as opposed to Cole Beasley, who only had 3 targets, 3 for 39. So it just seems like Josh Allen wants to get the ball to John Brown a little bit more now that he's healthy. So I'm just worried about Cole Beasley in that regard. But I mean, he's a target monster when Brown is out. So I think as long as John Brown's healthy, Cole Beasley's a scary play.
Yeah, I get the targets and coming down with Brown back in, but I think coverage defensively with Arizona could open up some opportunity for Beasley here a little bit more that he's seen in the past 2 weeks. So I don't know. I can see him maybe getting a red zone target here, pushing into the end zone.
Fair enough. Let's move over to Arizona. Obviously, you're starting Kyler, but this running back situation could get a little
little dicey.
sketchy. Yeah. We were expecting Kenyon Drake to miss this week, but now it's looking like he possibly might play, which limits all the excitement that we had around Chase Edmonds, who didn't give you quite the performance that you were expecting last week. Still give you double-digit points with 10 points, had 25 carries, just wasn't able to exploit that Miami defense that's been tough. So if Kenyon Drake actually does suit up and we have Chase Edmonds and Kenyon Drake, what do we make of the two for this matchup against Buffalo?
I'm still putting Edmonds ahead of Drake in this matchup, and I would still start Edmonds. Drake is still
Seems
dealing
he's-
with the ankle injury. I think Edmonds is the better running back. I know we've kind of gone back and forth with that, but yeah, Edmonds 1, Drake 2.
Do you think you could start them both?
I probably wouldn't. Not this week. I think if Drake
Leave
plays this
Drake
week
out.
and he stays and he shows that he's healthy and not dealing with the ankle as much, then yeah, start him next week if you need to. But I would not start him this week.
I think it's all dependent on the injury designation for Drake going into the week. If we see end of the day tomorrow on Friday that Kenyon Drake has no injury designation, if he's a full go, not questionable, not probable, then I think you got to give the upper hand to Drake just based on what we've seen all year. Before last week, I mean, the most carries Edmonds had was 6. He had found the end zone. He'd been involved in the receiving, but I mean, Kenyon Drake was getting a ton of carries, 16, 20, 18, 13, 18, 20, 14. Like he had the entire backfield in terms of the rushing opportunities. So it's a scary proposition to figure out who's going to be the guy. But I think it's all dependent on what that injury designation looks like for Drake.
Truth. We're
Well,
starting
I think-
Hopkins and okay, we're starting Hopkins. How about Kirk? Yes or no?
Yes.
I think you got the Curtis Samuel situation over again. Like you got to feed the hot hand. Like if he's getting
Do
it
it.
done, got to go for it.
Do
right?
it till he burns you, baby.
Told y'all. I told y'all.
Hey man, you got 2 good hits last week. Okay.
It was a big week for us.
All right, let's move on to the next game. We got the LA Chargers taking on the Miami Dolphins. Another backfield with the Chargers that we have no idea what's going to happen come Sunday. But we got word that we're resting
Jackson's
Justin
probably
Jackson.
going to be out.
Yeah, there's most likely Justin Jackson's going to be out, but it hasn't been ruled out yet. So still, I mean, keep an eye on it. Joshua Kelly just doesn't seem to lead the backfield regardless of who is healthy.
He's always the number 2. Doesn't matter
There we-
who else is there.
Then we have Kalen Balazs, who just got picked up from the Jets and was the
Balled
leading
out
rusher
last
last week. And then Tremaine Pope, who looked good before in week 8.
The game before, but then he
Yeah,
got
so it's
injured.
like, can you play anybody? I guess is the question. Like, how do you know who's going to have a good week? Because someone will probably have a good week. It's just who is it going to be?
Is Pope still dealing with a concussion? Because as of earlier this
No,
week,
he's
he was.
back. He's back.
back?
He's probably going to play
Okay.
this week.
All right. I would put Balazs right now. I mean, until we read otherwise or see otherwise, I mean, we can see how practice unfolds tomorrow for them. See who's taken the majority of first team snaps. But I would put Balazs in front of Joshua Kelly right now.
Yeah, I think Joshua Kelly is still not someone I'm starting. But I think Balazs and Tremaine Pope are going to be the 2 guys that have the opportunity to have a good game. Joshua Kelly is going to give you 5 or 6 points. Like he's just going to give you that okay game, just with the decent amount of snaps he's going to get
Missed opportunities for Joshua Kelly this year.
for sure.
Oh, yeah.
But I guess let's talk about the one receiving option that's worth noting that, is kind of always up in the air with Mike Williams. It seems like the last couple of weeks he's been getting it done. He's got that connection going now with Herbert. He's always the big play guy, but now he's getting some targets. 7 last week, 8 the week before. Found the end zone back in week 8. Is he someone that's a flex wide receiver for you now?
I would say yes to that.
Yeah, I think you can flex him with the targets he's been getting.
Fair enough. All right, let's move over to the Miami side of the ball. We saw the second week with Tua. He looked a lot more productive last week than he did in his first start. And the running back situation again is a question mark.
These are
Matt
murky
Breida-
waters we're in, boys.
Matt
They're
Breida
murky.
missed last week, but do you guys expect Matt Breida to be the leading back now that we expect him to play this game?
I don't like it. Okay. That's pretty much where I'm at. Howard kind of did what Howard was expected to do. It wasn't very effective, but had a touchdown. That's
Right.
pretty much how that goes. It's probably gonna be more of the same this week. I think Burrito will probably get more touches. I think it was Salvin Ahmed. The guy got released by the 49ers earlier this year. I think he kind of led the backfield.
Probably
If
yardage, but yeah, I think Howard still had
Yeah.
more carries.
Yeah, Howard had more carries, for 10 carries for 19 yards. Not great. I'd say Breida and Howard are probably going to lead the backfield, but I don't really want part of either one of it. So you can have it if you want.
Yeah, if Breida stays healthy and it looks like he's trending that way, that he could play this week. I mean,
Sure.
yeah, I'm not jumping on that train right now. I'd like to see him full go in a game before I make a decision on anything with him.
Then next thing you know, Gaskin's back, and you never have to make the decision again.
Yeah,
I actually think I'm okay with Breida this week. Like, I think he's your best option for Miami. And we know how Miami likes to utilize the running back and have a healthy one. So I think Breida's a flex option in deeper leagues for you. I think he can be someone that can give you double-digit points and find the end zone.
would you rather
Especially with so
start?
many injuries.
Would you rather start Breida or Zach Moss this
Breida.
week?
Breida,
Breida or Kenyon Drake?
Kenyon Drake.
Okay.
All right, let's move over to Devontae Parker real quick, because word is that Preston Williams is on the IR.
Yep.
So it should be all Devontae Parker, this
time.
week against the Chargers. Are you confident with Parker and Tua?
I am now. After last week, I really wanted to see what that was going to look like. Obviously, the first game was terrifying for Tua. Fonte Parker had 6 catches last week. I can't remember how many targets he had, but he will be just
7.
fine. How many?
Yep. 7 targets.
6 to 7. I mean, look at that. That's great.
Yep. And Preston Williams, he found the end zone last week. He was 4 for 60 and a touchdown. So honestly, I think the Preston Williams news boost Mike Gesicki. I think he's going to be a bigger threat in terms of
Yeah, he kind
the
of
red zone
disappeared
threat.
there for a while, so he can be welcome back.
Yeah, I think he can be involved with Tua. I think Tua might look for him in the end zone this week. Let's move over to the next matchup. We got the Denver Broncos taking on the Las Vegas Raiders. Drew Lock is coming off, I guess you would say, a career game, as well as Jerry Jeudy. Are those two guys someone that you're confident starting now after what we saw from them last week against Atlanta?
I like Locke in this matchup. I think he's a good starter this week if you got him.
Yeah, I would say
especially if you need a streamer or something, because he's available in a lot of leagues right now.
Yeah, I'd say you could stream Lock, and I'm not super confident in him, but I would stream him this week, and I do like Jerry Jeudy this week.
I guess real quick, I mean, even in this matchup alone, Drew Lock and Derek Carr, which one would you rather play?
Drew Lock. I'd actually like Drew Lock in this matchup against Vegas.
It's pretty close for me, honestly. Denver's got a little bit better defense. Las Vegas doesn't have as many weapons, it feels like, but Derek Carr plays really well at home. I think it's a toss-up for me. I don't know. Who would you take?
Yeah, I agree. This is a close one. That's why I kind of asked, but
Because you
I
didn't
think
want to answer. That's okay. All
I
right.
take the momentum that Drew Lock has and the options that Drew Lock has.
Tim Patrick too, man. He's looking good.
Yeah, I think he was injured maybe last game or something, or he's better now. He's healthy.
Yeah, he should be playing this week.
Yeah. My prophecy of Jerry Jeudy, 100+ yards and a touchdown, came true last week. He got it done. But I guess at this point, we have always had high hopes for Noah Fant, especially how he started off the season. He's been riddled with injuries since then. He came out of the gate last week and had a big catch, and then again he aggravated his ankle. Where is our confidence level with Noah Fant this week?
I'm confident in him as a player, but I don't think his body can take it. But Albert O, his backup is Gonzo. So, yeah, I'm expecting him to tough through it and probably have a decent game.
Yeah, he's still worth the start.
Yep. He didn't practice on Wednesday, but was a full participant Thursday. So hopefully the Wednesday was just a rest day and he's full participant Thursday and Friday. That would be good signs that Noah Fant's okay. And then lastly, what do we make of the running back situation here? Neither of them were great last week with Melvin Gordon and Phillip Lindsay. How do we gauge them at this point?
Yeah, Ashton. How?
Melvin Gordon has been pretty bad. I have him in, I think, at least one of my leagues, and I've been highly disappointed with him over the past few weeks. Yeah, I wouldn't.
I mean,
feel
this is a
comfortable
pretty good matchup here.
I know, but I don't like it. I don't like how they're using Gordon. He's not getting anything done. I would start Lindsay over Gordon, I think.
Okay, I can accept that. I don't really want either, but it is a good matchup. I'd probably start. I'd start Gordon in hopes that he falls in the end zone.
He gets a touchdown. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd
exactly.
rather have the workload, which I think Lindsay's going to carry.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a game script where they try to run the ball more. Obviously, everybody tries to exploit Atlanta's defense and pass all over them. So that's why I think we saw last week kind of the disappointing game from both of them. But I'm starting Melvin Gordon in the league, and I think this is a game where he can get back on track. Let's move over to the Las Vegas side of the ball.
We putting a wager on that one?
Gordon versus
Oh yeah, let's
Lindsay?
do it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, you're still 2 wings down, so I can give you a wings back if you want that.
All right, let's do it. Let's do it for the wings back.
All right, let's go Gordon.
I'll just split it with you. Say Lindsay over Gordon. You'll just get half the wings. I'll just take half of them.
I'm not going to give you both of the wings.
Oh, okay. Well, it sounded like you were on board with that, and I was like, okay, but I didn't want to take
Share them together.
1 wing off.
Okay.
Be a fun time.
All right, so we got Gordon and Lindsay squaring off. ESPN half-point scoring. See who outscores the other. But let's move over to the other side of the ball here with Las Vegas. We talked about Derek Carr kind of being in the same category as Drew Lock this week. Josh Jacobs is a must start at this point. Darren Waller is a must start. What about the wide receiver options? Is there anybody that you feel most confident about? Obviously, Nelson Aguilar just continues just to find the end zone. Doesn't get a lot of receptions, but tends to score. But anybody else that you want to potentially highlight here?
Nope. Maybe Hunter Renfrow. I don't even see what he did last week, but I know I don't want. I mean, Henry Ruggs is just too unpredictable.
Yep.
Hunter Renfrow had a decent game last week, but still 3 targets, 2 catches for 60 yards. So, yeah, I'm not super interested. I think someone's going to have to pick up the slack, and it's probably going to be Darren Waller.
I like, Nelson Aguilar. I think I mentioned him last episode.
No, he said outside of Aguilar, right?
Oh, okay.
Right.
Did you? I didn't. I'm sorry, I missed that
Just
part.
because he finds the end zone, like it's weird. Like he had
It's
3
just going to happen. He's going to do
3
it.
targets last week, but found the end zone again.
That's all I need.
It always
That's all
looks
I
like
need.
the same play too. Like it's just a long pass over the middle of the field, and there's Nelson Aguilar for the touchdown.
Contested, and then he just catches it.
Let's move on to the next game, though. This should be a fun one as well. Divisional matchup: Seattle Seahawks taking on the Los Angeles Rams. We'll start on the Seattle side because this should be a game full of fantasy points as well. We still have no news on Chris Carson's.
Did not practice today.
Yeah,
that came out tonight.
Concerning. That's concerning for sure. Again, if Chris Carson doesn't play, is DJ Dallas still someone that we're okay starting? He keeps finding the end zone.
He sure is. I'd play him after what we've seen so far. But if Chris Carson is active, I'd still play him as well.
Yep. And then obviously Tyler Lockett, DK Metcalf. Like DK's been great. Tyler Lockett, he has his up and down weeks. But you should expect DK Metcalf to draw Jalen Ramsey here, so it should favor a Tyler Lockett game in this situation.
Please, God, yes, please.
So I think this could be another good Tyler Lockett week. But let's move over to the LA side. Jared Goff, I think, is a great stream to have this week. Obviously, we like to take advantage of Seattle and Atlanta in terms of their
100%.
secondary, pass all over them. I think, Jacob, is your start of the week Jared Goff?
Yep.
Okay. And my start of the week is Cooper Cup.
I almost did. I almost
no,
did
mine
Robert.
was
Yours is
Tommy
Robert
Woods.
Woods. I
Tommy
almost
Woods.
did Cooper Cup. I was like, I think this is going to be a good week for him. I think Everett could have a big week. I'm still not sold on Higbee myself. Henderson's coming off an injury, but apparently it's not a problem. But we know how that backfield is. Yeah, I'm kind of worried about the backfield. I don't know if I'd get involved with that. Do you guys want to start any of the backfield of the Rams this week?
I think I'm okay with Darrell Henderson.
Okay.
I think you got to really kind of play all these LA options you have. But this is another comparable option here. What about Jared Goff versus Drew Lock? Who do you take there?
Jared Goff.
Just the matchup is
I'll
too good.
He has more stable options there. He has more weapons.
Even though they run the hell out of the ball, and
Right.
so whatever. I like it better.
Fair enough. And then between Higbee and Gerald Everett at this point, is there one that you're favoring over the other?
Everett.
Gerald Everett, yeah. Higbee's kind of washed out right now.
All right, let's move over to the next game. Cincinnati taking on Pittsburgh. This is going to have to be Joe Burrow is going to have to show up for this one. It's a tough matchup in terms of the defense. What are our expectations for the Cincinnati offense as a whole taking on Pittsburgh this week?
Man, I'd have to say last week was kind of interesting what the Cowboys could put together against Pittsburgh Steelers. But I know not many people have that much luck, is what I would call it, for the Cowboys. But man, I think Pittsburgh's going to slow this game down. But I still think Cincinnati is going to be throwing the ball all over the place. I'd probably push Green out of starting possibilities, but I think Higgins and Boyd, I think they're still going to be fine. Joe Mixon, is he going to play this week?
Yeah, I mean it's up in the air. Up until today, all signs were a go. They had their bye. Everybody's expecting him to come back and be 100% ready to go. But now his status is kind of up in the air. But again, I think it's the same situation you see with Chris Carson, that Giovanni Bernard's been too good, like in his replacement to sit. Even in a tough matchup, I think Giovanni Bernard is going to be too utilized if Joe Mixon is out, not to play him here. But what about Joe Burrow? I guess we've seen so far in his career this year that the tough matchups is where he really, really struggles. He seems to be more phased. No, but I mean, you see it with Justin Herbert. Like Justin Herbert it doesn't really matter who he's playing. He's just getting it done. Whereas Joe Burrow's looked great outside of the two games where he's had the tough matchups, Baltimore and Indianapolis, were his two worst games of the year. And those are the two best defenses he's played. So do you take that with a grain of salt, or do you really consider that, this is probably not a week that you're happy to play Joe Burrow?
No, I'm not. I'm probably not going to start Joe Burrow this week against Pittsburgh. I mean, Pittsburgh cut it real close against Dallas, and I think they're going to tighten up on defense here. They don't want to expose themselves too much back-to-back weeks. So I think this is going to be a tougher matchup for Burrow. I would not consider starting him.
I think those tough matchups that you see too, it's really dependent on the pass rush of the defensive team, and Pittsburgh is pretty much at the top of the list with that. So I think he's in for a rough day, and that offensive line is going to get bullied. So yeah, I'm out on him.
Defense is going to have to step up with Pittsburgh this week too, because Ben's out, right, with COVID list.
No, he's going to
still
play.
expecting Ben to play. Yeah,
they are. Okay,
It's a Matt Stafford
I wasn't
situation of last week.
So he's got to test on game day, right?
It's a close contact, so he hasn't tested positive yet. So
okay, all right, cool.
That's
good. That shifts everything.
The negatives and then 5 days. Yeah,
okay,
so
cool.
he should be Gucci.
And no one else on the Steelers tested. Is it? So we're clear on that.
Vance McDonald,
Okay.
which I was really gonna. He was gonna be my start of the week before that happened.
Let's move over to the Pittsburgh side of the ball, though.
Oh, we're there, baby.
With the news that that Ben's going to start, they were obviously pretty disappointing outside of Ben, Eric Ebron, Juju found the end zone. Like, where are we at in terms of this matchup with Cincinnati? James Conner, I think, was possibly the biggest disappointment of all last week for the entirety of the NFL. But I think this is a bounce back week for James Conner. He should be able to take advantage of this matchup.
Yeah, I think they're gonna get. I think Pittsburgh is gonna get up early, and then Connor's just they're gonna run the clock out basically. But I like all the receiving options here. I mean, I think you could start Juju, Deontay Johnson, Claypool, and Ebron.
Yeah, Juju's been
Feel
stepping
okay
it up.
about it.
Yep, for sure. But we said the same thing last week, and a lot of those didn't work out. But
Oh, that was a joke.
There's a lot of,
I
there's
was
a lot of
setting them
mouths
up
to
for
feed.
failure. I knew what the Cowboys were gonna do.
There are a lot of mouths to feed on this Pittsburgh offense in terms of fantasy. Someone is going to let you down each week out of the 6 options here that you can consider, 5 options that you can consider. Let's move over to the next matchup. San Francisco taking on New Orleans. Obviously, we have no Jimmy G. The news is that it will be McKinnon and Hasty again, as Tevin Coleman is expected to miss this game, and Raheem Mostert has not been activated off the IR yet. So where do we kind of gauge this San Francisco offense with Nick Mullins and the Jerick McKinnon and JaMychal Hasty experience?
Still putting McKinnon in. I think Hasty could. I mean, I don't know. How do you guys feel about Hasty? He could still get some work done.
He's
but
been
McKinnon,
disappointing.
but
I would say.
McKinnon's been doing well the past 2 weeks. So,
I'd beat McKinnon as well.
yeah. How you guys feeling about Ayuk?
Yeah, I mean, Brandon Ayuk missed last week, and Richie James came out of freaking nowhere.
Dude, what was that about?
He outplayed
Richie
Devontae
James.
Adams.
Holy crap.
Amazing.
I was like,
Rocket ship.
I guess that's the question. Would you start Richie James?
You think it's a fluke, or you think it's worth picking him?
That's the question, right?
Yeah.
Like, there was no Debo last week. There was no Ayuk last week. It was only Richie James. Like, so is that the reason why he went off the way he did, or with Brandon Ayuk back, are you kind of wait and see mode?
Yeah,
Well,
fading him. I'm fading him with Ayuk back.
I think he might see some targets, but I don't think it's going to be a repeat of last week. So, I mean, if it is, by God, we missed the mark on that one. But
Yeah,
was
he's still
pretty-
available in our
yeah.
main league. You know, if you want to take the chance on him,
He's been looking at me.
give him a go.
No, thank you.
Yeah, I mean, this is going to be one of those guys. Like, if he comes out this week and has another nice game, everybody's going to be jumping to the waiver wire to pick him up. So you want to be early on that train. Might be the time to get him now.
Buy your ticket.
Let's move over to New Orleans side, though. They looked fantastic last week against one of the toughest matchups in the league with Tampa Bay. Drew Brees was lighting it up. Emmanuel Sanders looked good with Michael Thomas back. Michael Thomas didn't have quite the game we were expecting, but still looked to be a big part of this offense. How do we stand with New Orleans now that Michael Thomas is back in this offense?
roll them out. I think you're starting Breeze, Kamara, Thomas. I think Sanders and Cook they're all starters.
I think
especially-
Sanders. I think Thomas being there definitely opened things up for Sanders.
Yeah.
He looked good last week.
I think he's looked good 3 weeks in a row now that he's played.
Yeah.
Like the 3 healthy games.
I'd say
played.
he's definitely a flex wide receiver, maybe 3-ish area. And
Richie
Cook-
James or Emmanuel Sanders?
Sanders.
Idiot. No, I'm just kidding. I don't like Jared Cook that much, but he could be okay. He just hasn't looked that good this year, I feel like.
He just still scores so many touchdowns is the one thing. It's like Drew
How many
Brees
does he
just
have?
tends to look for him. 4 on 7 games. It's pretty good.
These.
All right, let's move over to. Oh, quick question: Are you playing Drew Brees against San Francisco?
Yes.
I feel like San Francisco's been lit up by quarterbacks the last 2 games.
Yes, they have. Yes.
Aaron Rodgers just spanked him up and down the field, and I
Well, he
forgot
got
they played
lucky
the week.
though.
Oh yeah, God, he always gets lucky.
He gets lucky way too often.
It was just a good night for Aaron Rodgers.
No, yeah, you're actually right. I mean, they have been giving up a lot of points to fantasy QBs. They're like 26th in the league. That's not good. So I guess you can if you want.
I have
to.
missed 15.
With Michael
but
Thomas back.
you get your stats from a weird place. I feel like.
Yeah. it's every week.
Are
Nonetheless,
you looking at points per game or total? That's also
I'm just looking at opponent point rank on ESPN scoring.
I'm looking at more in-depth stuff.
Oh, okay.
You would never understand.
All right, let's move over to the next matchup. Baltimore taking on New England. Again, what do you make of Lamar Jackson?
I'd start him.
You keep telling me to start him, and
Hey, what did you do last week? You had a decent
wasn't
game.
great. 18 points isn't what you want from Lamar Jackson.
I said decent. I didn't say he was going to be fantastic. Oh my gosh, Jacoby Brissett just ran a touchdown in.
Fair.
Why do they do this stuff? Not Jonathan Taylor.
I think after what we saw Joe Flacco do to New England, you got to have faith in Lamar Jackson to come in and do something, right?
Do you?
Yeah. I mean, I'm telling you, I'm sitting here telling you, he's going to be fine.
You've told
think
me
he's starting
for
to get
weeks
his
and weeks
groove.
and weeks.
He looked good last week against a tough team. I was proud of him, and he knows that. But the real question is, what else? What do we do with the rest of the team?
I'm not
I
starting
don't think
any
you can.
running backs.
Can you start Hollywood? I don't think you
I'm
can.
not starting. I don't want to start anybody. Mark Andrews has been
Des Bryant.
super disappointing. No. I don't want to start anybody on Baltimore outside of Lamar Jackson. Even
you
Mark
have to
Andrews.
start Andrews.
I'm pivoting off Mark Andrews in the league this week. I picked up Dallas Goedert and playing him over Mark Andrews.
I was thinking about playing Austin Hooper over Andrews,
Yeah, I mean, seriously, at this point, like,
but I think this is the week that he's going to bounce back, so I can't do it.
yeah, I mean, again,
I
it's
think
a
he's
big
going to get in
name,
the end zone.
big name guy. It's hard
I
to
agree.
say.
I think he gets in the end zone.
That's fair. All right, let's move over to New England. I guess Jacoby Myers had a terrific game. Looked like he was like the only option Cam Newton wanted to throw the ball to.
The only
Cam
option
Newton.
he had to throw to, and he was playing the Jets. Continue.
Yeah, sure. I mean, this is definitely a harder matchup, but Cam has to throw the ball, right? Like to stay in this game, they're gonna have to move the ball. Jacoby Myers looked great. Cam was slinging it to him. And we're not sure of the status of Damian Harris yet. He got banged up at the end of the game last week. We don't know.
I don't care about the running backs. It's just that's a freaking mess.
Yeah, but they've been moving the ball with the running backs these last couple of weeks since Damian Harris has made his return.
So tell us what you got, Stefan.
I mean, I think the designation of Damian Harris is going to be a big determining factor here. I think if Harris is out, Jacoby Myers, I think again is a good play here. But I think if Harris plays, I'm lowering my expectations with Jacoby Myers.
Okay.
That's just my take, though. But if Harris plays, would you play Harris against Baltimore?
No,
No, I don't want
the
to
backfield's still too split up for me. If it was a better matchup, I would consider it.
Would you play Matt Breida or Damian Harris?
Matt Breida,
Oh God.
Kalen Balazs. I don't like it. I just don't like this matchup. But they do run the ball pretty effectively. But they just mix it up so much. It's hard. Is Sony Michelle ever coming back? Whatever. All right,
Never
next.
know that guy. Let's move on to the next one. The last game, the Monday night game, Minnesota Vikings taking on the Chicago Bears. On the Minnesota side of the ball, I mean, Dalvin Cook is the most ridiculous fantasy play I've ever seen these last couple of weeks. Just is wild. But for these other options here, my boy Irv fell in the end zone twice. Is he someone that you're considering starting? Would you start Irv over Mark Andrews?
No. Not in this game. Not in this game. Not for me.
Yeah. Probably not. Yeah.
The Bears have been so good, man.
That's fair.
I think this is going to be a big Thielen game too. If they do pick up the passing game more, I mean, how long is Cook going to keep on this pace? You think?
As many times as they give him the ball.
Good grief!
Yeah,
He's been decent.
It's wild. I was listening to I think it was a Fantasy Football just talking about the pace he's on over the last 2 games.
Oh yeah,
I
it was
think-
like almost 3,000 yards or something.
Yeah, it's
crazy.
3,000 rushing yards and like 46 total touchdowns over the year. It was wild. Yeah,
It's unreal.
he
And
scored.
I would say that the weakest part of Chicago's defense is probably their run defense. So it could be another Cook heavy game here. So it might limit the passing opportunities that are already bad passing opportunities with the Chicago defense. But are you guys
what do you-
starting Jefferson this week?
Yeah, that was my question. What do you guys do with Thielen and Jefferson this week against a tough matchup? Jefferson's been boom or bust, really. I mean, he gives you huge games and he gives you disappointing games.
I know all too well.
But you look at the big games he's had, and it's been against bad secondaries. I mean, Atlanta and Tennessee are his blow-up games. There's only games over 12 points. So I think I'd look at other options with Jefferson this week.
Who wins this game?
Minnesota.
Because
Bears.
of Cook.
Yeah, I think their offense just moves better. The
they're
Bears
running some
haven't
momentum
looked
too.
great these last couple of weeks. They started out just winning games, and now I don't know what to make of them. So I think I take Minnesota here.
I do too.
But on Chicago's side of the ball, Nick Foles looked decent last week. He's got another good matchup here with Minnesota. I think this is a big Allen Robinson week. He should have a field day with this secondary. Jimmy Graham had a nice game last week. Where are you guys at with these options here on Chicago?
I think it's a good week. You guys aren't gonna believe this, but the Moon Man was almost my start of the week.
That's
Yeah,
Allen
Mooney.
Robinson, fair it out. But
I'm not starting Foles. I mean, this is the first week this year that he's put over 20 points.
I don't want any part of that guy.
Yeah, I'm not starting Foles. Robinson, you're starting. Graham could be considered, but
I
outside
think
of
you
that,
gotta start Jimmy Grandpa. He's having the time of his life out there.
yeah. Outside of
That
that,
was
I think I'm kind of that's the
David
line.
Montgomery's going to give you his standard 7 to 11 points, and that's pretty much how that's going to go.
that was my highlight of the matchup last week, Ashton, is that I beat Jacob with Nick Foles as my quarterback.
You
That was
did
the
play
best-
Nick Foles?
Yeah, that was the best part of the matchup.
Well, you have the best game of the year. That's the only reason you won.
Right, his 20 points. Yep. But yeah, I think Allen Robinson is going to be fantastic here.
Are you
I think
doubt
Nick
the
Foles-
Moon Man? You know what happens when you doubt the Moon Man.
You're not
proves
going
you
to
wrong.
play Darnell Mooney. Like, sure, he could have a
You
nice
could
game.
stream him this week.
Would you play Darnell Mooney over Justin Jefferson? No.
No.
No, you would
I'd
not.
consider it.
The ceiling is not as high.
I smell another bet. He's putting up more points this
You
week.
should
Okay,
not-
let's do that. I'll do that.
You want to bet Darnell Mooney versus Justin Jefferson?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll take that bet. Just straight up, who scores more points?
Half point.
Okay.
ESPN.
And we're back on chicken strips.
All right.
No meal this time. Just entree.
Just the strips. Gotcha.
You're gonna break the bank here, buddy.
Can I do a parlay on this?
No,
wanna-
you guys didn't let me parlay into the one I wanted to bet on.
You
But
want to hedge your
that's
bet?
you. This is me.
You want to hedge your bet?
I say if they don't get over, oh man, what should the line be here? Let me look here.
7 points.
You want to do 7 points?
What's Jefferson projected?
He's projected 10.1.
The Moon Man's projected 9.1, but his average is 6.9. What's the hedge there, hedge master?
If either one of them don't get over, you want to do 8 points?
Okay. If either of them don't, then what? We owe you.
Then you owe me.
Well, what did we get out of them scoring more than 8 points? Nothing.
Yeah, that's
Then
We're
I'll
just
play.
giving you free.
No,
shit?
I'll pay the difference and I'll make it a combo.
Oh, so you're gonna make it a meal.
Oh, yeah, boy. Give me them fries and Coke.
It's quite a complex deal here, but I'll write it down. So they have to score +8,
8 plus.
Or-
Yep.
One of
Or
them
you-
does.
Plus
or
8.
you
yeah.
get chicken strips.
One of them. So let's say
Either
let's
one
think
of them.
this. Okay, either one has to score more than 8, and if they don't, okay.
If nobody scores more than 8,
Darnell,
chicken strips.
Darnell. I know Darnell's he's gonna get her done this week. It's gonna be great. 31st worst offense against wide receivers. The Moon Man. He's gonna be in the stars. Out of this
all
world.
right. Well, we've taken up enough of our listeners' time. But if you guys don't have anything else, we'll wrap it up. Make sure to check out our Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, YouTube, all of our socials, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. We'll be releasing our post on our starts and sits of the week. So make sure to check that out before you set your lineups. And as always, we'll see you guys next week. Goodbye.
See ya.
Jefferson had 7.9.